How you doing? My name's Jerry Chandler, and hopefully you found this video by getting directed here through either the Needless Things website or my own blog. If not, quick explanation of what this stuff is. Anytime I do interviews, I'm recording the interview so I can transcribe it later. If you've ever seen a raw interview, you know there's a lot of stuff that gets said that never makes it to an interview. It could be very good, very funny, very informative, but there's just too much. So this is basically bonus content that gets attached to anything that I'm writing that involved an interview. In this case, it really is bonus content because it's not anything that was directly from the interview for the article that was written, that I wrote up, other than it involves Bill Mulligan, who was one of the people that was a subject of the article. Bill Mulligan is an independent filmmaker out of Sanford, North Carolina. He's got a pretty good resume on it. He does makeup FX, writing, and directing. And in this very brief discussion, about 30 minutes long, he talks about a few things that you might want to know if that's the kind of thing you're looking for or looking forward to doing. Some of it's going to be FX tips, some of it's going to be just general chattiness, and then some of it will be ways to avoid coming face to face with police officers and looking at possible arrest, which once happened to Bill. So if you don't want to do that with your indie filmmaking career, you might want to pay very close attention to that section. Either way, enjoy, and hopefully you come back for more later. Have a good day. Let's see.
We're going to turn this off for now.
No, don't worry, because I can't use the other audio, so I'm just going to...
You want me to just hold it?
Yeah, hold it probably in that hand.
This hand.
So you can get both of us.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I can't use the first one because of all the other stuff, but so I'm not going to worry about it. But I need to get stuff.
Well, let's see. We're going to take Junction 1 South, I guess.
Yeah, we're going to hit Junction 1 South.
Which is probably this one coming right up here.
That's north.
Yeah, south to
South.
the left.
Okay, south ahead to the left.
Take right at that light. God, it's so dark here.
Yeah, it's so
Even
wonderful.
with street lights, it's dark.
It's 10.
All right, the hazards of jumping into guerrilla filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
She told me, I think, this story 5 years ago now, almost. And bits and pieces of it I can't remember. Always make sure the person you are dealing with knows what they are doing and actually has permission for the property.
Yes. So, I'm not going to use any real names because I still have some affection for these folks, and you know, things happen.
Learning experiences happen.
So I got a call from a guy I know, makeup guy, good guy, and he and his partners wanted to do a shoot, and I don't know exactly what it was all about. They were trying to make a horror movie, which they eventually did, but this was for a still shoot. They had a model, and it was going to be blood and gore, which is pretty much all I do. So yeah, sure, I had nothing else going on. And I go down there, get picked up. We drive out to Chapel Hill, pick up a young lady, college student. And now I'm beginning to realize at this point, this was not really exactly my thing. I think it was going to be kind of like semi-nude stuff, or just kind of torture porn kind of thing. But okay, I mean, she was game. No one was going to get really hurt or anything, so that's all right. We find this old abandoned house. And they'd already been in it. The place, it was a house off of Highway 55, but the property was so overgrown you could barely tell if there was a house here. And inside it had been completely stripped of all its copper. Vandals had gotten in there, trashed the place, taken out anything of any value. It was pretty awful. Looked like a place a serial killer would live in. And they had taken a closet and painted it black and put up satanic symbols and chains and all, and there was blood and all kinds of gory stuff, and I guess that's where she was going to be chained up. I don't really know what the premise was because we never got that far. At one point I'm like, wow, this place is really cool. You know, who did you find this from? You know, who told you about it? He's like, no, I just saw it. I'm like, what do you mean? I just saw it. I saw it and I checked it out and there was no one there. I said, well, who owns it? And he said, Nobody owns it. It's an abandoned house. And, you know, warning bells are going off in my head. Now, we shot Second Death in an abandoned house, but we got permission from the realtor. Supposedly they were going to burn the place down at the end, and we even incorporated that into the script. As it turned out, they couldn't burn it down because there was an old oil well there, and they were afraid the whole place would set Sanford on fire. So at the end of the movie, we had to clean the place up. We had more or less put blood everywhere on the assumption that it didn't matter because they were going to burn it down. And we cleaned it up. It's one of those places where homeless people or crackheads occasionally live in. God knows what they were thinking when they would go in there to, you know, just try to mind their own business and smoke crack, and there's bloody handprints all over the walls. Didn't stop them, though. Anyway, I'm thinking, oh boy. And sure enough, as I'm having a conversation with the young lady, a car pulls over, and it's the son of the woman who owns the place. And these three guys, they are talking. They are talking. They are talking their way out of this. And he seemed cool. He's like, oh, okay, well, you know, didn't know. Everything's fine. Everything was not fine. He called the cops because about 10 minutes later, all of a sudden, we see the flashing red and blues. And now these guys are talking like you can't believe. The girl and I are standing, you know, there. We're like, oh my God, what happens now? There's, you know, the mother, the woman who owned the place, who's about, I'm guessing, 90 years old. She's there, and she's not happy at all. This apparently was her brother's house. He died, and nobody, you know, no one lived in it, and it all went to seed, and vandals wrecked it and everything. But it's her house, and she's going over and over again. You know, back in her day, people had a little thing called respect, and they didn't trash. And I'm just thinking, when they come in here and see this, we're all going to get arrested, because this looks like Charles Manson was in the house. You know, they actually did a pretty good job of set design if you wanted to go to jail. And, okay, so the girl said something to me, and this is where I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm not the dumbest one either, because she said to me, do you think it's a good idea if I go hide? Because if they find me here with you guys, they might think something weird's going on. I'm like, for the love of God and all that is holy, do not even think about going to hide. Because if these cops find you, nothing could possibly look worse than they go into this house, they see it all trashed up, and they find a girl cowering in a closet somewhere. And you're going to say, oh, no, I'm part of it. They're going to think Stockholm Syndrome, and I'm going to end up raped in prison. So please do not go hide. Just extinguish that idea from your mind. And the police come around. One of the cops is talking to us, and he's like, so what's your deal? And I'm like, you know, they just brought me out here to do makeup and makeup on her, and we were not part of, you know, I'm not saying we threw him under the bus. We just told the truth. You know, we were not part of this brilliant idea of finding this abandoned house. And the cop was great. He's like, so you had no idea that no one had permission. I'm like, you are correct, sir. You know, and you're kind of like what you would call independent contractor. Yes, once again, I'm doing Ed McMahon to his Johnny Carson. Yes, sir, you are right. And he goes, well, you two can go home. So we left. The last I saw, they were trying to clean up. It was awful. They were trying to clean up the place, scrubbing it down, because they kept saying the same thing over and over. We were going to leave it better than we found it. And I'm sure they did, because last I saw, they were scrubbing the place down while the lady was there clucking her tongue and telling them about how in the old days Pepperidge Farm remembers and people didn't do stuff like this, and it was god awful. So we all could have ended up in jail. No arrests were made, no tickets. I guess it all worked out. But please get permission when you shoot anywhere. There's really, unless it's your house, there's no, somebody owns it. Someone needs your permission. Most places will give it to you. If you're good and they haven't had a bad experience with other filmmakers, and definitely do not be those other filmmakers that make it tough for everybody else. Leave it better than you found it. Do not leave so much as a gum wrapper lying on the ground. So that was my adventure there. That could be a good premise for a short story. I really should work that into a movie. I don't know what the twist would be. Like, she does go hide in the closet, and there's actually a homeless serial killer living there who kills her, and then like the cops come in, they find her, and like we all go to jail and get raped in prison.
Wasn't that Black Christmas? Let's do the sorority house. Oh, the maniac's living in the attic.
We're still one of the creepiest movies ever made.
The original.
The original, not the real. No, we're not. We will not speak of the remake. Should be put with the remake of The Fog, locked in a safe and dumped into the ocean by the Marianas Trench.
All right. Mistakes learned doing First of all, go over the basic low budget, do-it-yourself FX materials, some of the stuff, but mistakes learned in doing the basic low budget FX.
One of the reasons why everyone's first movie is a zombie movie is that zombies are easy to make. Everybody knows the rules, and as far as special effects go, there's a lot of ways you can show people being torn up, mutilated, and it's very effective, and it's pretty cheap. Liquid latex, gelatin, anything that is food and is safe to put in your body is even safer to put on your body. And there's a lot of cool things you can do. You know, it's easy to make fake blood. A lot of recipes on the internet. They're all pretty good. Gelatin's great. You can do just marvelous things with it. I mean, there's all kinds of different special effects. Get the Tom Savini books, and you see a lot of the stuff was done with Rice Krispies and liquid latex. And do learn a few basic rules. Okay, here's one lesson. Liquid latex, although it's probably the single most useful stuff. It can be used as an adhesive. You can make people look old in it. You make people wounds. You can just you can make full masks with it. Wonderful things. A lot of people are allergic to it, and the allergic reaction can be catastrophic. So before you put so much as a dollop of it on somebody, test it on like a little tiny crook of their arm, just a little bit, and if there's any irritation, redness, shortness of breath, coma, stop and go to something else.
Honey, care to chime in on liquid latex allergies?
Yes, always carry an EpiPen.
EpiPen.
That is an excellent, look at that. That is an excellent idea and I don't do this, and I'm going to start, for any low-budget filmmakers, always have a first aid kit, know where it is, not like everything else that you drag with you, and an EpiPen would be a brilliant idea, because even if it has nothing to do with what you're doing, like somebody finds out they're allergic to bee stings, they didn't know it at the time, but they know it now because they're twitching on the ground, an EpiPen could be a lifesaver. You might be in the middle of nowhere and not enough time to really get them anywhere. What's that?
Asthma inhaler.
Asthma inhaler. Even just some Benadryl, if worse comes to worse, and it's better than nothing. Don't work with fire. I mean, you can have a fire pit where people are singing around the campfire, but no setting people on fire. There is no safe way to do it. If you have an actual fire professional, they can do it safer, but they still get burned on occasion. There's no 100% safe way, and there is no even remotely in the double digits % safe way for an amateur to do it. If you don't believe me, just go to YouTube, put idiots setting self on fire, and just go hours of entertainment of people trying to do this and being scarred for life. And I would have a hard time living with myself if I scarred someone for life. Don't mess with their eyes. I don't even really recommend these mail order contact lenses. They're cheap quality control there. So no fire, no eyes, and no bullet squibs that you made with a firecracker.
Going eyes. It's not even the low budget ones. Because it's something anybody can look up. They had to take Vin Diesel to the hospital, to an eye expert.
Really?
When they were doing the second Riddick film. Because it was the second or the most recent. I'd have to look it up. We're not near a computer. I'm driving.
Yeah.
But they had to take him because they had the new kind of these wonderful looking silver reflective.
Right. And they cover virtually the whole eye.
Cover virtually the whole iris, not the whole eye, just his iris. And they actually adhered to his iris, he couldn't take them off. And it became, we have to go to the hospital and see the eye expert. And these were specially made, medium budget productions, custom done for him by experts. But they were using a new material to do that silver reflective.
Yeah.
And it was like, it just went wrong.
Yeah, if you need to do eye effects, that's one of those things where just do it in post-production, do it in After Effects. It'll probably look just as good, and you want to do this to have fun and tell a story. And if anyone gets hurt because of some decision you made, it will take all the fun out of it. All the good memories will be gone. So, and I mean that about the bullet squibs too. I've seen a lot of bad ideas for bullet hits. Walking Dead doesn't use bullet squibs anymore. Everything's gone digital. And I think there's a little too much digital blood in a lot of the movies these days. It looks too digital. But there are easy ways with air compressors, and again, all this is on the web, to make actual blood effects. The reason why, of course, people use the digital stuff is you can do 10 takes and no one ever has to change a shirt. You know, whereas if you use the stuff I like with the splatter effects and the guacamole gun and the air compressor, it looks awesome. I think it looks better than digital, but it's a one take, unless you've got lots of shirts, which we usually don't. We've got one, and we're in the middle of the woods with no laundromat, so it's one take. You better make sure the camera's focused. As far as other things, let's see. Rigid colloidin is this wonderful stuff. This wonderful stuff, if you ever want to do scars, you paint this stuff on. It's ether, so love of heaven, make sure nobody is smoking a cigarette or you're going to be Human Torch material. You paint it on the skin, and as it dries, it pulls the skin toward it. It puckers. And the more layers you put on, the deeper it goes. It's really meant for simple scars, like a knife scar. I think the most I've ever seen it used, it was used on William Dafoe in Platoon. And I don't know what they were thinking, because it was so harsh on his skin that actually it took a while for his skin to heal. It was way too much. So Michael Ray Williams. Michael Williams, wonderful actor, great guy. I don't know why he ever talks to me, because we wanted to show that his back had been badly scarred from beatings and whippings and everything. And so I'm painting on this rigid colloidin. I think it would have worked if he were older and had soft, saggy, puckery skin, much like my own. But, you know, he's young and full of vim and vigor, and his skin is still, you know, tight as a drum. So, yeah, it puckered, but after the first couple of lines, there was just nothing left. And he was stretched. He probably could have played a drum solo on his back at that point, and it was hurting. And he was too much of a trooper to whine about it. But, you know, at some point we realized, oh my God, no, this is awful. We pulled it off and washed it off, and it had irritated his skin so much that actually it looked fine. There were lots of red marks all over his skin. So that was also the time when he was supposed to eat a bar of soap, and we weren't going to make him eat an actual bar of soap. So the idea, such as it was for me to bring some white chocolate, cut it in the shape of a bar of soap, and have him eat that, which would have been a much more pleasurable experience had I remembered to bring it. So once again, Michael, like a trooper, actually bit into a real bar of soap. And his expression was he didn't have, he's a good actor, but he didn't have to act. He looked angry, so I don't know where he got that from, but
Thinking of you.
thinking of me. It wasn't the last time. But yeah, I mean, lots of things don't always go right with special effects. Luckily, with things like zombies, if it's too hot outside and the makeup starts sliding off, it still looks okay. They're melty zombies. It works fine. I always get a little nervous working on other people's projects, though, because I feel like if I screw it up, I'm harming someone else. I'm messing with their goals and dreams. I have no fear whatsoever when we're doing ours. I have a pretty good idea of how it's going to go, and if it doesn't work, I know how I can make it work to my own satisfaction. But with someone else, I really feel like it's got to go 100%. It's very nerve-wracking when I work on someone else's project. I love doing it. I love helping. But it's not nearly as much fun for that reason.
Okay, that's the goes wrong in the, what, 10 years now?
God.
It's been about 10
oh,
years
God, I guess so.
since you hooked up with Christine. Probably a little more than that, because it's 2015 now.
Is that possible?
But in all this time of actually getting to do this regularly, and for film and for camera, the best get-arounds that you've learned, like things you've picked up that you wished you knew when you did the prior project type deals. Oh, I wish I knew that would work.
Best get-arounds.
Like, you know, as far as this makeup won't work, we're trying to make it work, then you finally find out, oh, this will work in the heat, or this will work better in the cold, or this will work better for that, or even the principle of this looks horrible, but it's all we've got and it looks beautiful on film versus this jaw looks amazing and you see it on screen and go, oh my God, that looks terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, well, just best tips for newbies.
Best tips for newbies. You know, keep it simple. Don't show anything longer than it absolutely has to. It's better to have a scene be a couple of seconds too short than a couple of seconds too long. The fact that you worked for 2 hours to get a makeup effect that's only on the screen for 10 seconds, that's not a problem if it's 10 good seconds. If it's for 30 seconds and people get tired of looking at it and it's pretty obvious that it's not moving the way a real wound would work, well then you've blown it. It may just be in the background. You know, you work. Okay, here's a tip. If you're going to do a zombie or monster or anything where there's a lot of different people being made up, find out, first of all, if some of the people there have experience doing makeup. Do them first and then have them do others. That's good. Find out ahead of time, to the best you can. You got to rely on people's honesty on this. Who is a type A personality and who wants to just be in the background? And don't waste your best stuff on people who suddenly are going to become shrinking violets and just be way in the back where no one can tell how great they are. Meanwhile, the person who you thought was just going to be an extra and you slap some raccoon eyes on them, they suddenly turn into Laurence Olivier and they're right up front and center with their face in the camera with the worst zombie makeup you've ever seen. But it's not always easy to do that, especially when you're meeting these people for the first time. So you got to try to get a feel for them, and if you do a good makeup job, encourage the director or whoever to kind of get them up front. But that's not easy. That's my tip is don't make your first movie your dream project. Tell a good story, make a good movie as best you can. Then you're going to look at it and say, "Ugh, God, that wasn't at all how I thought it was going to be." And then analyze, where did you go wrong? Why isn't it as good as it should be? How is this movie different from anything you watch on TV? Did you just nail the camera down and it's one endless middle shot with no cuts or edits? Did you break the 180-degree rule where people are going left to right and suddenly going right to left for no reason? Where did you go wrong? And then do another one and don't do that. And after you do it a few times, now do that dream project that you've been holding back on. You got the experience for it. Be realistic. Okay, right now I'm trying to write a fantasy script. A friend of mine wants to do a fantasy movie, a Game of Thrones kind of epic fantasy movie, dragons and wizards and all kinds of stuff. And I'm writing the script, and I'm going by the guidelines he has made, because I may be wrong that we actually can do this. So I'm gonna do it that way. But I'm holding back. I don't want to get too emotionally involved in this because I just have a feeling it's not possible to do it. But I think I could be wrong. And this guy is good at getting things done, getting things going. And he's got a lot of irons in the fire and all. So I'm taking a leap. It's not a huge leap. I'm enjoying writing it. I don't recommend that for people who are going into this for the first time. Do not write your epic. It's hard to shoot an epic, especially if you've had no experience doing two people sitting around a table talking. Even Spielberg didn't start out doing epics. Movies he did do, he doesn't show anyone, which tells you something. They're under lock and key somewhere and they'll never be shown. I've sat through a lot of first-timer films. They're usually way too long, way too ambitious, which is better than not being ambitious at all. I mean, if you have to, those folks, it's like, when they get a little bit more technical know-how under their belt, if they keep this level of ambition, if they keep wanting to shoot for the stars, and now they've got the tools to do it, they might actually make the stars. So I'd rather see that. But you're watching and you're thinking, if you had just told a story about this character and not tried to do all these crazy special effects, you really had something going here, and you kind of lost sight of it. I saw a lot of that when we were doing a film festival recently, where the build-up was great, and the payoff, not so much. And it's like, this story about this I don't want to give away the thing, but the story about a woman and a guy, and there were certain weird things about both of them and everything. This really had me involved, right up to the point where the horror element showed up, and then it just became another demon possession movie. And I'd go to him and say, I can't believe I'd be saying this as a horror movie fanatic, but cut all the horror out of this and finish the story you started, because you really had something going here. You had great actors, really good characters, and it's almost like you wedged this stuff in there because you had to submit it to horror movie festivals. Maybe I should take my own advice on that, though.
Best start point, newbie. Go insane, and if you think you can get it together, go for the full feature or a bunch of shorts.
Yeah, do not do a full feature. Oh my God. No. Do a bunch of shorts. You will learn how to tell movies. Write some Twilight Zone type stories. And here's the nice thing. You're not under any obligation, so we'll be taking this exit.
Yeah.
You're under no obligation to make it a certain length. I mean, Twilight Zone stories had to fit in, 20 minutes, 23 minutes or something? And some of the some of the episodes are clearly padded, way padded. They have Rod Serling had a great story idea and a good shock ending, and they padded out. It's like, oh God, get to the point, because he had to. That was the format. There had to be one story and had to take this amount of time. There had to be this many commercial breaks in between. Well, you're not under that obligation. If you've got a great 15-minute story, take 15 minutes to tell it, and that you're done. Do not make it 20 minutes. Do not make it 25. Don't cut it down to 10. If you're doing it for a festival where it's got to be a 10-minute thing, don't do that story. Do a 10-minute story. That's a great advantage. You can take as much time or as little time as you want with a short. And actually, to tell you the truth, under 20 minutes will get you in way more festivals than over 20 minutes.
Well, that's the problem Chris Moore's having with Foodie, isn't it? Some of the festivals won't.
Some of the festivals won't, but
because it's 30 or 35.
Is it that long? You see, boy, it moves fast. That's a phenomenally good short. Foodie's just, you never want to go into a festival against Foodie because Foodie's going to win. Huh? No, we're fine. We're fine. No, this is it.
Back on the interstate.
Yeah, that's very deceptive there. Foodie's awesome.
Foodie, like food die.
And I believe it's on YouTube now. He's tired of winning awards at festivals, so now he's giving it away for free. And he just walked in on that. Now, Chris is a great guy and a good director. Very imaginative. There's a lot of good creative people in North Carolina, and I'm willing to bet that's probably true for a lot of places. You'd be surprised when you scratch the surface how many people are doing this kind of thing.
On the cutting down, because you and I had this conversation on the phone a little while ago. Not just film the writing, your 4-hour vampire epic that you're currently tearing the heart out of, but in tearing the heart out of, you said, basically, you know what? There's good ways of looking at it. So,
yeah, it's you learn a lot of things. I've now learned why the books are always better than the movie, because the books can do whatever they want. They can take as much time to tell the story. They can put in those little tiny bits of characterization that do not move the story forward in any way, shape, or form, but they do give you insights into the character. And those are the things that go. Those are the things that get lost. You've got to tell this story in an hour and a half or 2 hours, and these wonderful little bits, these little windows into the souls of the characters that are absolutely your favorite part, do not move the story together. They add spice to it, but so it's been brutal. I'm trying to tell a story that has a lot of parts to it. It's got only 3 main characters, but I'm at a point. I've gotten it down to about 2 hours. I'm going to take one more whack at it, but boy, I feel I've lost so much already. It almost feels like now I may have to take out a character, and I don't want to do that. So what it makes me want to do is, when this is all, whatever happens, whether it gets made or not, to turn it into a book or something, because there's all these great things that have been taken out. But you do learn a lot. You learn no padding. Don't pad things out. It's hard. It's tough to do. I envy the people who are doing things like Breaking Bad or Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where they have an entire season to tell a story arc. That's wonderful. Oh God, what I would give for that. That's a nice thing too. This is the golden age of television. You want to tell, 13 episode seasons. That's great. No padding there. 13 episodes is a wonderful number of shows to tell.
Nothing to do with filmmaking, but this is just, what the hell? 13 episodes. What do you think of that? It's like before American television, you'd be sitting around and like people would be complaining because, their favorite British show, once it would show up, it's like 6 episodes. That's not a season, 22 episodes. In the last, 6-7 years, a lot of, particularly cable, and now like the new big wave, the internet exclusive, the Netflix, Hulu, and whatever, it's 13 episodes, 8 episodes. Sons of Anarchy, huge, popular, insanely, and it's like 12, 13 episodes a season. It's like we're now following the British, and it's like, I want to tell this story, don't pad it. I don't know. I don't think there's actually a question. It's just, I think it's kind of cool.
It is cool, and imagine
really good stories now.
I mean, now like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, some of my favorite shows, and they did something like that. Although the longer seasons, they had the big bad of that season, this overarching arc, the story arc that all the other stories were part of, and. But you could take even some of the best seasons that they had, and there were a few episodes here that just were treading water. We were contractually obligated to do 22 episodes, and this was the one that, we spent all the money on the last one. This is essentially a Roadrunner cartoon to kind of pull some of the money back. I love it. You look at Breaking Bad, it's such a great show, and part of the reason is it is lean, mean, and not a lot of padding. Especially once they really hit their stride right here. I think that's the way to go. Cable really is this is the golden age of great TV. I cut the cable. Hulu, Netflix, Amazon. Since we cut cable, we've been watching better stuff and more of it. Watching more TV and enjoying it more. Yeah, binging. Oh, binging. Like an anorexic at Golden Corral. We just find a series we like and we watch it until... they turn off the electricity or it's time to go to bed. It's great. Good time.
All right, well. Yay.